Hi, and welcome to Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, I want to talk about having the self-awareness when you're talking to other people. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. I'm Kale Houser, your host for today and pretty much almost every day. I hope you've been enjoying the podcast so far. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking and sharing. It greatly helps me reach more people and hopefully change the way leadership is done in business. Today I want to talk about, I think I misspoke a little bit in the intro, but I want to talk about you as a leader having your own self-awareness while you are talking to other people, right? Being self-aware of not only what you're saying, because you certainly need to be aware of that, but also how the interaction is going with that person you're communicating with. Are they receiving and understanding what you're saying? Are they completely checking out? Are they thinking about something else? Do they have other things going on in their mind? Or are you in no kidding good communication with that person? Especially if you're talking from a leader perspective to a subordinate, to somebody that that you work with. And it could be even a coworker, and certainly if you have a boss above you that you're talking to. This comes up because I just had an actually kind of funny and interesting conversation on the phone with one of the scheduler gals from my VA medical center. So I've got an upcoming appointment with an orthopedist because I've been having issues with my wrist for a long time, and they finally are getting around to trying to figure out what's going on with it. This gal, I'll just call her Miss Betty for lack of a better term right now. And immediately on the phone, you kind of got that impression. She was kind of that sweeter old lady, talks a little bit slower, and you have just this instant mental picture in your head the second she called and said, "Hi, I'm Miss Betty from the VA facility. I'm calling from the orthopedics office to schedule an appointment with Dr. So-and-so." And I go, "Oh, hi, Miss Betty. How are you today? Thank you for calling." She says, "Yep." And she kind of launches into this thing about the appointments. And I was trying to get from her, understand, okay, is this for a follow-on appointment? Is this, because there's been some confusion with, especially the orthopedics department recently. So I was just trying to get clear that I wasn't either being double booked or dealing with something that was completely unrelated. And so she was definitely the type of person that wasn't used to handling questions, and she even made sure to tell me that she's not a doctor, and all her responsibility is the go-between to schedule. But then she goes, "But go ahead and ask your question." And I told her, I said, "Well, ma'am, I just want to be sure, is this a follow-on where the doctor will be discussing the results of my MRI, which I had last week done, and now I'm just kind of waiting to find out, if surgery is what's going to happen, or if we can just do physical therapy, or just what?" And she basically said, "Oh, well, certainly they're going to talk about that." And she kind of goes into this thing. I'm like, okay, no big deal. So then that was kind of my bad for trying to get a go-between person to give me a little bit more detailed information, especially where the VA is concerned. I know better than that. But what was funny is, in the course of our discussion and kind of her really talking to me and not me being allowed to ask any sort of clarification questions, she talked about, and I don't even know how we ended up on it, she talked about the doctor, because I guess at my VA facility, they've got one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the country, supposedly. This is what I've been told a couple times. I have yet to meet that doctor or anything, but she was talking about how if the doctor were to call and talk to the patients and the veterans that, they have interactions with, then that veteran would basically waste that doctor's time, and they'd want to talk about all kinds of different things, not related specifically to, orthopedics or whatever the issue was that the doctor was calling about. And of course, we can all understand that. That's part of why doctors don't just call and randomly talk to patients, because especially with the VA, you're dealing with primarily older people that want to talk about all kinds of health issues that, if you have a grandparent, they want to talk about. That's kind of what is part of their world, in that phase of life. But what was so funny is she then proceeded to talk to me about her 28-year history with the Veterans Administration and the hospital, and how you had to just get in at the ground floor. And she, was at one point started in the laundry room and then moved to the kitchen and then moved to scheduling with primary and kind of hit all these departments, right? And good on her, right? She built her career and she's been doing this for a long time, and how she's trained other people and all this stuff. And then she went into how you can train other people, but then they just go back to doing things their own way, which she didn't like. It was strongly suggested that she didn't like the way people did things, and she liked the way she did things, and all these different things, which I'm sitting there just kind of smiling and letting her go through, because I was happy to be that person that she needed right then to kind of explain this to, because who knows what kind of day she's having, or how it's going, or if she feels appreciated at work or anything like that, so people understand that, her journey that she's been on. And I was more than happy to be that person. I really didn't have a whole lot going on, that, I wasn't like driving or anything or in the middle of something else. I was sitting at my desk. But it caught me again, and I've touched on this in a previous story about having the self-awareness when you're talking to somebody, especially when you're doing the exact thing that you had just complained about to that person, right? So she was just complaining about veterans wasting the doctor's time, and then she went into this, her and I have never met, we don't know each other, she doesn't know anything about me, she doesn't know what I'm doing with my time and how valuable it is to me, but she went on, her whole 28-year history and her thoughts on training people and how to appropriately schedule appointments and things of that nature. And it was just comical, because she was doing that thing that she was complaining about with other people. And how many times do we do that? And it all comes down to self-awareness of when you're talking to people, of how your conversation is going. And maybe this is kind of a subconscious thing that, I'm sure some psychologist or psychiatrist has researched, that our brain naturally goes down these pathways, and they relate the things we were just talking about to things that we want to talk about further down the road. And that certainly happened with a previous supervisor, lead pilot that I had in a deployed location from a previous podcast we talked about. He would say, hey, everybody, if you're not doing anything, you're welcome to go back to your rooms and hang out. You don't need to hang out here as long as we've got coverage for the pilots that are flying the line. And then the second they would leave, he would turn around and complain about the people that had left, and he couldn't believe that they went back to their rooms despite him, as the lead pilot, giving them permission to do so, or go to the gym or get something to eat, whatever. So I wanted to take a second to kind of encourage you as you're talking to people, if you don't already. If you do, fantastic. This is a core item of being a fantastic leader, is having that self-awareness to, one, not only know what you're talking about, to know and have a clear communication path, but also to flip that one level deeper to know how that is being received by your audience. Whether that's you standing on a stage and talking to a whole group of people, or maybe at a morning meeting and you're talking to your entire team at your office, or individually you're having a one-on-one conversation and being able to read people and get that maybe non-verbal feedback from people to know if you're being successful in your communication. And again, right, a lack of communication or a wrong kind of communication creates confusion. Confusion creates failure, and we definitely don't want to enter into that realm. Okay, so that second level and third order effects of when you don't have that self-awareness, people start to check out, and that whole communication barrier. So you're thinking that you've got this awesome line of communication going, and they're receiving what you're saying, and they're nowhere near that level of assumption, right? And usually that plays out on their face, that plays out on where their eyes are going. Are they paying attention to you? Are they looking down? Are they literally doing something else at the time, whether it be typing on their keyboard or writing notes or listening to their headphones, right? This certainly could apply if you're talking to your children. Do you have their full attention or not? And are you able to keep it? So kind of a short one today, but I wanted to make sure that you, if you weren't already, moved into that second and third order level of communication, of really being aware of how your intended communication is being received. And then again, that's maybe the third and fourth order, is how you can change that, what you're doing, in order to better meet the needs of the communication style for your audience and how they're receiving it. Okay, because certainly people learn in different ways, and they communicate in different ways, and they understand different things, whether it be your tonality, whether the language you use, the speed that you use, your hand gestures, right? You can go in, there's again hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books written on different forms of communication. But I wanted to touch on that because I thought it was kind of a funny story with this gal. Super sweet. I was glad to talk to her. I got my appointment scheduled, and of course it was, a standard VA like 2 months into the future. Well, yay, thanks. Little side note, that's what socialized medicine looks like. If you weren't aware, good luck getting anything done soon, unless it's like legit emergency, your hands bleeding and cut off kind of thing. All right. So that side note on that. Thank you so much for paying attention, for listening to my little bit of rambling and sharing in my experience with the VA schedulers. It is always fun, and it is an experience as long as you have the right attitude about it. Please make sure to like, share, and comment. I read every comment, although I may not be able to respond. And shoot me an email if you have any other questions or examples that we can discuss. I would love to hear it. Kale@kalehouserleadership.com. Hey, no matter where you're at in the world, have a fantastic afternoon. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.